Bear with us as the Shadow Treasurer, Joe Hockey, joins me to elaborate on the opposition's response to this budget. Fast moving, Joe Hockey. This is a budget that gives pensioners a $14 billion boost, launches a huge program of nation building for the long haul and forecasts a return to balance within 5 years and surplus in 6. Have you got anything positive to say about it before you start to pick it to pieces?
Well, we welcome the initiative with aged pensioners. We do, and we tried to do that last year, and the Labor Party opposed it last year. So we welcome that initiative. That's a good initiative for aged pensioners.
Should they have gone further with sole parent pensioners?
Well, look, obviously we've just had a look at the budget, Kerry. It is extraordinary. I mean, I have never seen numbers like this. I don't think any generation of Australians have seen numbers like this. This is the biggest debt Australia has ever had.
Have we ever seen a global crisis like this?
Can I tell you, the RBA, the Reserve Bank, said last week it will not be as deep as 1990. They said that last week. And yet this government has spent more money than any government in modern Australian history, 29% of GDP. It is the biggest spending government in modern history, the biggest debt in modern history, 1 million people unemployed, nothing to show for all the money they've spent. And you know what?
Their argument is that had they not spent this money, it would be vastly more than 1 million unemployed.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it equates to about $200,000, $250,000 per job that they claim to have saved.
But do you accept that had they not spent the money, there would have been many more
I don't accept it, and I'll tell you why. You know, I just heard Wayne Swan say that the borrowings need to pay for the lost revenue. In fact, the Rudd government has spent over $120 billion in new initiatives since the last election. They are now incurring net debt of $188 billion. So 2/3 of the net debt is actually paying for their spending, not the loss of revenues. The loss in revenue wiped out the surpluses.
But do you accept that the lost revenue over the 4-year period is now up to $210 billion?
Oh, absolutely. But the problem is their spending. Their reckless spending, Kerry. I've never seen anything like it. It is on a scale that is almost incomprehensible, and it's interesting.
Is the national infrastructure spending irresponsible?
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting. They've spent more on their cash handouts than they're spending on infrastructure. Isn't that interesting? They spent more handing out cash to people than they're actually spending on their so-called nation-building infrastructure.
So what would you be doing? What should have happened in this budget to reduce debt?
Well, the starting point is don't deliver the cash splashes.
No, that's gone.
Well, no.
What would you be doing in this budget now? What should have happened in this budget now to reduce debt?
Well, grow the pie. You've got to grow the pie. Well, the first thing is you've got to focus on small business. That's what we've always talked about. Malcolm Turnbull has already laid out a number of detailed policies to try and get small business to grow.
They've made concessions to small business.
Small business is the engine room of the Australian economy. Look at the numbers on their small business rebate. They're extraordinary numbers. I mean, Wayne Swan didn't even have the courage in his speech to lay down what the deficit is. He didn't talk about the debt. All he had was spin. And Australians can see through that, Kerry. Surely they can see through it. This is an intergenerational debt that they are giving every Australian family with nothing to show for it.
Are you saying you don't believe the Treasury estimate that the budget will return to balance by 2014?
Not at all. Not at all.
You're not saying that, or you don't agree with it?
It is casino economics that they're relying on. They're expecting that trend growth will be exceeded in all the years.
So you're accusing...
For 10 years. For 10 years. No, these budget papers are actually Wayne Swan's budget papers. He is assuming that there will be above trend growth for the next 7 years. Which is unprecedented.
Aren't they Treasury forecasts?
I understand if they're Treasury, then we've got a lot of questions because it is an unprecedented assumption. And I just go one step further, which is very interesting. The RBA and the IMF both said this is going to be a slow recovery. Why is it Wayne Swan, when he chooses to quotes the IMF and the RBA as authorities, but when it comes to his so-called plan to get us out of this, he doesn't agree with the RBA and the IMF? You know, the fundamental point is there is no plan for recovery here. This is just a plan for debt that is going to be a massive burden for generations.
I'll put to you what I put to your leader last week, that the Reserve Bank Governor Glenn Stevens has said very recently that public finances remained in sound shape with modest debt levels. He's not a politician. He's the independent central banker. He owes the government nothing. He says the debt levels are modest, and Treasury says we're only 5 years away from a balanced budget. What's that against saving 200,000 jobs?
Well, can I tell you, the 200,000 job assumption is plucked out of the air. Let me go back to your assumption.
By Treasury.
Well, let's go back to the assumptions, right, that you've put into that question. The fact of the matter is that the Reserve Bank and the IMF say it's going to be a slow recovery. But the RBA, the Reserve Bank, said it's not going to be as deep and severe as 1990. The starting point for the Rudd government was they inherited a budget surplus. They inherited 4% unemployment, which is now going to 8%. They inherited zero government debt. In fact, there was money put in the bank. They've spent all the proceeds of the mineral boom and they're now mortgaging the next boom.
OK, but very briefly, you're happy to quote the Reserve Bank when it suits you.
Well, no, the Reserve Bank was right.
Well, then do you also accept that the Reserve Bank Governor is right when he says that the debt levels are modest?
Well, I don't know if he's seen these budget numbers, but I tell you what, I wouldn't consider them modest when it's $9,000 for every man, for every woman and every child in Australia, with an annual interest bill of $500 for every person. Well, I don't consider that modest.
It's going to be a very interesting debate to watch unfold. Joe Hockey, thanks for talking with us.
Thanks very much, Kerry.
And that brings our budget program to a close, but invariably you'll see more stories coming to light over the next few days, so keep watching at 7:30. ABC News will have regular updates through the evening, and Lateline will have more budget analysis at 10:30, followed by Lateline Business. But from us until 7:30 tomorrow, good night.